Check the ride.
What is up, guys? It is Hot Take without the hot take here, and we are back with episode 2 of Junior Senior 2 Views. I am here with my dad. Say hi.
Senior, hi everybody. How's it going?
And we said we would reconvene for our second episode of the series after the Super Bowl, and boy, was it an entertaining Super Bowl.
It very much was. It's probably one of the most entertaining Super Bowls. Probably, well, look, the last few years have been entertaining. This was definitely the most entertaining Super Bowl that I've seen in a long time. Had a little bit of everything, a little bit of drama, a little bit of intrigue, and everything you needed to have a good Super Bowl result. What were you thinking, Junior, on your thoughts about the result initially, and then what the outcome of it all?
I think I was thinking that it was San Francisco who were going to pull it out. I was watching the game, and I was like, damn, Kansas City looked dead to the 49ers defense. Nick Bosa was pulling off some decent plays. But in the end, Kyle Shanahan finally didn't learn from 28-3 and once again took his foot off the pedal, and it lost him a ring.
I would say my head said San Francisco, or heart said the Chiefs.
Yeah, that was everyone.
If you think about the Chiefs' history and the amount of disappointments they've had, now this is a team that just lost last year's championship at home against Patriots, so you really felt like they needed a chance to get to the big game. I'm happy for them. I'm happy for the city. I think a couple things out of that. I think, just importantly, the 49ers could not contain Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes was the game. Patrick Mahomes made things, kept plays extended when they could have stopped him. The front four defense just couldn't really get to him as much. He wasn't rattled, and they fought back. The Chiefs have been falling behind every time.
Yeah, it was there was a lot of big moments in that Super Bowl, especially that touchdown that put the Chiefs in the lead with about 3 minutes to go. What do you think about that? Do you think
questionable? They did run it over and over again.
Do you think that was a touchdown?
I think it was when you slow it down.
It was a touchdown.
It looked, and when they sped it up, it looked like he got his foot out before he put his hands over the plane. But the rules state
his foot was in the field of play,
and
the ball was over the pylon.
Right, his foot was in the field of play before it all happened. I think one of the momentum killers may have been that pass interference against George Kittle early in the game, because
it was a pass interference, so it was the correct call.
I'm not sure, because I think, like, you think about the Saints game with the Minnesota Vikings, almost identical plays where push off distance, separation. It's questionable, but you can't only go back and go, you know what? I
don't think that's the main reason as to why the 49ers lost.
No. It's one of those
they
things.
took their foot off the pedal. Kyle Shanahan learned nothing from 28-3.
No, I think he did. Look, I get you. I think the couple of things. I don't think the 49ers could run as well as they did in the championship game against Green Bay. They definitely were not running as well. Kansas City defense, even throughout the playoffs, was a sort of, hold it as far as you can kind of defense. They weren't lights out, but they were stopping the run. In the beginning, both teams were filling each other out. They're doing gadget plays, end arounds, this, that, using wide receivers as running backs. And then the 49ers kind of gave up on the run a little bit. They started throwing the ball. Jimmy Garoppolo didn't have a horrible game, and I think people will look to him saying he's the reason why they lost.
No,
not true.
You can't blame Jimmy Garoppolo.
Well, not true, because he's getting the calls.
Yeah, that defense completely fell apart.
Well, Kansas City's defense actually got better as the game went on.
Yeah, I was concerned when the 49ers took the lead for Kansas City, because their defense, I thought my prediction was going to come true. Their defense was falling apart quickly.
I think after the second interception that Mahomes gave up, I thought to myself,
that was a lucky interception because it bounced off Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I thought this might be over. I thought the Chiefs might not be able to come back from this. I think that ultimately, I mean,
you look back to that drive, if the 49ers had taken at least a field goal, that would have probably won them the game.
Probably. Look back at that, you go, again, you look back and go, that could have been the difference in the game. I think everything went their way in the beginning, but then toward the end, the Chiefs defense started getting pressure on Garoppolo when they needed to. And you know what? It started getting to him. So he couldn't get rid of the ball as quickly. He was throwing, incomplete passes. So, you know what? I think people will say a lot of things about Kansas City. They had the home court field advantage for the playoffs. What happens if New England won that last game against Miami?
What if Baltimore doesn't completely choke against the Titans?
What ifs? You can what if yourself all day with the Kansas City Chiefs. It was destiny. It was their time to win. They've now won their second championship. So you start thinking about those teams that, haven't won in such a long time. And you start feeling for those teams.
You've got the Vikings.
The Vikings haven't won.
Never won a Super Bowl.
Been there 4 times, never won. The Buffalo Bills, same story.
I think with the Bills, I think for the good season they had in that defense that they've been assembling quietly in the background, I think it's next season is absolutely critical for everyone in that organization. If Josh Allen does not develop, then there's nowhere they're making it past the wild card.
Well, look, I think there's a lot of teams you can start looking at going, well, who could be the next sort of team? People are pointing to Kansas City again. I think Kansas City plays in a very...
Kansas City's the team to beat now.
They play in a tough division, but I think that they should be able to get back again.
They play in a tough division but that's if the Patriots, if Tom Brady goes somewhere else, and that's another topic.
But there are rumors about that. Him potentially going to San Francisco, which I don't think he's going to.
That's not going to happen.
I think Tom Brady's going to stay right where he is, and I think the New England Patriots are going to give him exactly what he wants.
I think if they don't make the playoffs next season, it might be really sad. He's probably going to end up retiring and take the gold jacket in Canton.
Well, probably. Look, I think he's not retiring. I think finished for him, losing to the Titans at home. He's not going anywhere. I think that most people would expect him to get signed to the Patriots will come due with the money. He's historically not taken a lot of paycheck in order to, for the Patriots to retool. The Patriots need to retool. They need receivers badly. They need.
The only reliable receiver they have at the moment is Julian Edelman.
Oh no, he's banged. He's a bag of bones. He's the third down guy. They need to get other wide receivers involved. So I think,
but it's just about cap space, because if you're opening up a windfall of money for Tom Brady, then I don't know, will it suffice in getting some extra pieces around?
Well,
because they did lose a big piece on offense in LeGarrette Blount.
Look, I think ultimately moving forward for all the teams now who've seen it, I think the one coach who probably has a small chuckle is maybe Sean McVay. Because, look, I think, let me just put it out there.
They're locked into a lot of contracts,
I think that for Sean McVay, he was humbled in last year's Super Bowl, only scored 3 points.
Jared Goff.
But I'm thinking, I guess, looking at it, Kyle Shanahan was elevated to this wonderkin status and, second time unlucky. But that's not the end for San Francisco. So as much as we talk about San Francisco sort of being,
they're not done. This is the beginning of their window.
Again, another team that plays in a very tough division. But I think that if they keep the pieces in place that they need to keep in place, you won't hear the end from San Francisco. They'll be back. Well, it's kind of the second loss they've had in the last several years. If you remember, they lost to the Baltimore Ravens way back when Colin Kaepernick was still a name as a quarterback. So that's the second sort of
before the kneeling incident.
Of course, this is the second Super Bowl incident that Super Bowl loss that they've had. But again, I think hats off to the Chiefs. They're a really good team. Patrick Mahomes deserves the.
No, he deserves it, surely.
And I think moving forward, they just have to keep pieces together and keep guys from getting injured. I think if they can maintain keeping the team as a whole, don't be surprised to see the Chiefs back there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. They're definitely going to be back there within the next, probably even next season. As for the 49ers, they need to keep all their big pieces on defense around. Nick Bosa is going to be getting a huge payday in the next 2 years from his rookie contract. Yep. D4 is going to be getting paid a lot. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be getting paid.
Well, he's already getting paid.
He's getting paid big time.
Getting paid.
So if they don't win a Super Bowl in this window, they're going to look like failures.
Yeah.
They don't want to be the Thunder.
Right. Well,
they don't want to
every
be the
team.
Thunder.
There'll be I think at this point, and we'll talk about it in further episodes as we get closer to next year or this year's NFL season. We'll talk about those teams who we think are going to be maybe the ones who got booed, didn't make it to the dance, might be coming back.
But okay, so moving on, the trade deadline for the NBA has just passed. Some big moves have gone down, and we have been proven wrong. Kevin Love is still a Cavalier.
Still there. They don't want him.
Still
a
Cavalier.
Takers.
Still a Cavalier. But some of the big moves that have gone down, the Timberwolves landed D'Angelo Russell for Andrew Wiggins, an unprotected first-round pick, protected first-round pick, and an unprotected second-round pick. So, what do you think about that move?
Look, I guess it's sort of not D'Angelo Russell's fault. He's a good scorer, a really good scorer. I think,
and he's dynamic as well. He doesn't just score the ball. He can share the ball.
I think the fact that the Lakers kind of gave up on him, and look, I think there are other factors involved for him not staying in LA. I think.
They needed to win and win now. They wanted LeBron.
Yeah, I also think at the time it was a very dysfunctional team because I think Kobe was toward the end of his sort of tenure with at the time. And
then you had Jerry Buss dying.
Yeah, so there was a lot of things going on, but I think he's a good scorer. I think he hasn't quite. He was in Brooklyn. I think he didn't.
He was all-star level,
right? But I think because of the Kyrie factor, which is why he left Brooklyn and had to go. I think ultimately this is a good move for both teams. I think Wiggins needed a fresh start.
Yeah,
I think his former number one pick.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, I think the Timberwolves win in this trade. I don't. With Wiggins, his contract is large, and he's going to a team which is locked into Steph, locked into Clay, locked into Dre, and locked into a lot of big contracts for some years to come. And now they've got another big contract on their roster. If Wiggins is a scorer, he's not. And the Warriors pride themselves on moving the ball and getting great shots, not just good shots, great shots. That's how they got 73 wins. That's how all their players do nothing but shoot the ball. They pride themselves on moving the ball. So I'm not sure how Wiggins will fit into that system.
I think he'll probably fit in. It'll probably be a learning curve once Clay and Steph come back. I think right now Wiggins is what the Golden State Warriors apparently need, and that's another wing player.
Yeah.
A guy who can create his own shot. So I think once Clay and Steph come back, maybe that'll be the right fit. It's always been about the right fit for Andrew Wiggins.
I also see this as a big opportunity for Steve Kerr to prove himself as a good head coach because a lot of people have been saying he's overrated. He's been coasting on high-end talent. This is a good. I think this will be a good opportunity for him to prove himself as a head coach that can fit players into his system. So because Clay, he hasn't really been making a lot of noise as a head coach. He's won some championships on the back of Steph Curry, but I think this will be a chance for Steve Kerr to prove himself.
Look, I don't think Steve Kerr needs to prove himself at all. I think talent's talent, but if you don't get the right talent to work together to get to that point, then it's more of a finger pointing at the coach, I believe. I believe you can have the best talent as a coach, but if you can't make it work and put it together, then it doesn't really matter. So I don't necessarily think it's Steve Kerr to prove himself. I think it's Golden State looking to retool. So right now,
they're still in their window. They're still in, this is 1 year of tanking because of the fact that a lot of their all of their natural men are injured. This is 1 year of tanking. I think they'll be probably back in the playoff hunt next year. But,
yeah, they will.
But the next big trade is Andre Drummond to the Cavs.
Not a big trade.
But that's an interesting trade for Brandon Knight, John Henson, and a second-round pick. Pistons got fleeced.
Well, look, I don't know. I think that Drummond was a free agent. I think there's a lot of factors involved here. And I thought it was curious. I myself had told you that I believe that Andre Drummond was going to go to a team like the Celtics, who really need some kind of big man presence. But obviously, look, and I'm sure deals happen, and we see them all the time, but we don't know about the other stuff in the background.
Yeah.
We don't know. I'm sure the Celtics would have been in touch with the Pistons, And the Pistons probably would have said, we want Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, we want everybody that's good, and we'll give you Andre Drummond. So I think the Pistons had to think about making a move, getting a couple guys like Brandon Knight. This is like the third time he's ended up playing with the Pistons. I'm sure of it. He's been a journeyman his whole career, moving around from place to place. I know Henson was a long time Milwaukee Buck, but now he's over there. I think this is all about just
dumping salary
and getting draft picks. Clearly, Detroit is like, okay,
we need to focus in on
this.
Derrick Rose and Blake Griffin.
Right, and I'm not sure if that's going to necessarily be the end of this whole thing.
They still have a lot of work to do to get back to that championship status that they were at. But the next big trade that went down, Andre Iguodala to South Beach. The Heat received Iguodala, Jay Crowder, and Solomon Hill. From the Grizzlies, the Grizzlies got Justice Winslow, James Johnson, and Dion Waiters. See, I like that trade because the Heat, Pat Riley is all in on this Heat team. He wants a good veteran like Iguodala. For the Grizzlies, Justice Winslow and James Johnson are pretty serviceable, but Dion Waiters is very, very enigmatic. So I'm not sure how he'll work in that system.
I think it was about him getting Waiters moving on. I think the relationship between the Heat and Waiters have been strained for quite some time. Again, this is a good move for Miami. If you look at their team, they sort of have two units, if you will, running on either end. They have some veteran leadership.
And they have some nice youth and Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo.
Right, so does that necessarily put the Heat into the conversation for a next round in playoffs? Could be. You could see a Miami-Milwaukee sort of,
I see them going into the semis.
Finals, maybe.
I see them going into the East semis, maybe being a dark horse Eastern Conference Finals candidate.
I think this puts them in that conversation just because of the talent that they have. They have sort of evolved from the big three and evolved from having just a really balanced
after the big three, they really needed to retool, and they've done it well.
Yeah.
And Pat Riley knows his stuff. But the four-team mega deal has really been talked about. So this involved the Rockets, Hawks, Timberwolves, and Nuggets. The big fish in that trade is Clint Capella going to the Hawks, who I think got a really good big man, and to help out with Trae Young.
Really good idea. A good move-wise as far as moving the big man along.
Yep.
Maybe, I guess, Houston tried the small ball the other day with the Lakers, and it was successful. Yep. So they obviously are onto something, thinking that they need to have a small ball set system. That way, Clint Capella maybe was slowing things down. It's a move. It's a calculated move. But it's a move that Houston's made, and we go from there.
Outside of Clint Capella, the Rockets get
Marcus Morris. No one's talking about Marcus Morris.
Marcus Morris going to the Clippers.
All right. The Knicks made a move. Okay, they got Mo Harkless.
Are we gonna do Mo Harkless? Like he's gonna be a big piece on that team. No. But anyway, outside of Clint Capella, in that trade, the Rockets get Robert Covington, Jordan Bell, a 2024 second-round pick. The Hawks receive Clint Capella, Nene. Timberwolves receive Malik Beasley, Juan Hernan Gomez, Evan Turner, Jared Vanderbilt, and a 2020 first-round pick lottery protected. And the Nuggets get Gerald Green, Keita Bates-Diop, Shaz Napier, Noah Vonleh, and a 2020 first-round pick unprotected.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what interests me in that is the Nuggets. I like what they're doing. They're filling their team up with depth, and they got a nice 2020 first-round pick to do it as well. And they've got Jokic, and they've got some nice youth on their team. Mm-hmm. It's just about, will it be enough?
Will it be enough? That remains to be seen. I think that, the Nuggets have sort of, fine-tuned things. They've got some guys. Look, all these players that come through, they don't all stay on the team. So just because, the team acquires them doesn't mean they're necessarily going to have either space for them or time for them or use them later on in the summer. So this is like a precursor move, but we're talking about summer. So wait for the summer, because right now the teams that have made the moves are the teams that are looking to move on to the future, which is the team that you see the theme with the Timberwolves, just trying to secure a future. Obviously, Cat's a big part of that future, versus other teams that are looking to make small changes for the post All-Star break run.
Okay, so the next topic that we're going to talk about for 5 minutes is the baseball spring training.
Baseball spring training, yes, it's been quiet. There's not a lot to talk about here because we're only talking about 5 minutes.
But the big moves in the offseason that we haven't talked about, we got obviously Garrett Cole going to the Yankees, and we're Mets fans, so that's bad for us.
Bad for us, great for them. A lot of money for this guy.
They needed a starting pitcher.
They needed starting
someone.
pitching. The Yankees starting pitching historically has always been meh, as opposed to the Mets starting pitching, which is pretty good, but that's beside the point. We're talking about Garrett Cole.
He's an ace.
He's an ace, and they need that frontline starter. So now,
but they're paying handsomely for him.
Well,
$345 million contract.
This is the theme
That's
for
massive.
baseball. But this is the theme for baseball, though. You know, give a lot of money to the guys like Rendon and Cole, and then only give 1-year contracts to everybody else because there's no money in the till for the rest of the teams.
Speaking of Rendon, he's gone to the Angels, which I knew the Angels were going to be throwing money at free agents. I don't think it's the best move for them.
They needed something.
But they had the most painful season out of any team in the majors. I mean, when one of their teammates in Tyler Skaggs, their best starter, dies of an opioid overdose, and he got the opioids from a clubhouse employee, there's no coming back from that.
Well, I think that they made a couple moves. They hired Joe Madden. They needed to steer the ship. They needed somebody to steer the ship. Obviously, Joe Madden fell out of favor in Chicago.
Of course he did.
He got them he brought them to the championship and they won it. So, and obviously, his time was done. So they've retooled with manager. I think Rendon deal's fine. My only fear is that he's now a third player, perhaps stuck on a franchise forever that may not go anywhere.
I mean, you've got Mike Trout as well.
You got Trout, you got Pujols. He's still there, and they've been paying him forever. So you hope that with that murderer's row, you have Trout, Rendon, and Pujols, however you want to do it.
Their pitching is really bad, though.
So you have to see what the pitching's going to be like moving forward. Maybe the Angels will make a little bit noise in the West, because the West is not really...
It's not great.
It's not strong.
Aside from the Dodgers, it's not great.
No, but you're talking AL now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, AL West is a different story. You got the A's, you got,
and the
Seattle.
A's, and the Seattle Mariners are a legacy of failure. The A's are spending low, and the A's are spending low. So, yeah. Anyway, as well with the Nats, I think they could do something in their title defense. I mean, they got Strasburg back. They got most of their core back, except Rendon. I think they could do something.
Well, it's the East. So they're in the NL East. Tough division now. Then the Phillies have made a couple moves. The Mets, of course, are my Mets and your Mets. They'll be in the picture. Not the Marlins, of course. Maybe the Braves. So look.
I see the Braves doing something this season.
So I think there's a lot to say about how they did it. I think the ironic thing was Bryce Harper leaving and the Nats going, we'll do it without you, and we won without you. So I think that's a lot to say about what they are going to be up to.
They need to get rid of Bryce Harper. He
wanted to get rid of him. They just basically didn't offer as much money as he wanted. So there you go. I mean,
a lot of that money went to fixing up the main problems in their team.
Oh well. He took the money and ran, and he was stuck
and now
on a team
he's on a team that's below 500.
So we'll see. I think as time goes on with our show, we'll certainly maybe highlight a couple teams that we can talk about prior to the season starting to see where they sit.
But I do want to touch on the Mets, which last season was eternal head desking for the fan base, as over 20 blown leads and Robinson Cano and a lot of their natural men injured. It was a big time, and obviously that painful loss to the eventual champions, the Nats, for that playoff spot. And I
think that they showed something. The second half they started playing better.
That June and July completely screwed them over.
But it was what they did early on that got back to them.
That June and July.
I think that it's a hard start with the managerial situation being what it was. Now they have another manager. Look, the Mets, it's never been about pitching. I think the pitching's solid. It's about the hitting and how much
core.
And I think the big question is how much they can possibly get out of Yoenis Cespedes. They've actually reduced the amount of money they're going to pay him. Is he going to be able to step on the field and actually.
Well, he was injured for a bit of the season.
Right, he had a bit of a season. He missed the whole entire year and a half. He hasn't been around.
Yeah.
So I think that
they need to get something out of Cespedes. Otherwise, they're not really going to
right.
progress.
I mean, he was playing for.
You can pitch as much as you want, but if you don't hit, then you've got no chance.
Right. He was playing.
And
for
this is and vice versa as well. You can hit as much as you want, but if you don't pitch, there's something wrong. Anyway, since we live in Australia, we're going to talk about the NRL. I've done 2 videos on my channel about this. The 2020 season is approaching in just over a month's time, and what do you think about this upcoming season?
Rabbits. It's all about the
Rabbits.
Rabbitohs.
He's a Rabbitohs.
All about the Rabbits.
He's a Rabbitohs fan. I'm a Roosters fan.
All about the Rabbits.
Crosstown rival fans. What do you think about the grand final? Because I didn't really talk about it on the channel.
Look, I think the grand final was what you expected. I think that with NRL in particular, because the idea is not so stop-start like the Super Bowl. It's a running clock, 80 minutes. I think that it was entertaining. I think that each team had their chances.
I think the Raiders got screwed over by that call, but they also had chances to ice the Roosters. I was watching that game on my birthday, and I was like, the Roosters look dead and buried in this game. They looked dead and buried. There was a couple of chances that the Raiders had. Cooper Cronk was in the sin bin for 10 minutes, so they had the extra man and chances to win their first title in almost 30 years, but they didn't do it, and that 6 again call has been a point of contention since October 6th.
The 6 again call, I think most people thought that the referee had drawn up 6, and everybody stopped. Players on both sides literally stopped.
And then he changed the call back.
He changed the call, which threw off the momentum.
And the Roosters benefited try from that, which made it seem even more shady and duplicitous. So,
what are a couple teams that you think didn't make it last year have a good chance to make it this year? And
I think
which couple of teams you think made it, but won't make it this year?
I think the Eels, they had no expectations last season, none, and they exceeded my expectations. I didn't expect them to make the finals, but they did. And they did well. They didn't make it past the second round, but with the Storm regressing now, I think they need to prove something to me this year. This season is absolutely critical for everyone in Parramatta. For the Tigers, though, I'm not too sure about the team because they got Adam Dewey, who was a nice young prospect for them trying to rebuild and move on from the Farrah Marshall era, but it's just. I don't see them really progressing much. The Dragons are going to be comical again. They're going to waste the prime of Tyson Frizzell. Sharks will probably make the finals and underachieve again. I don't see the Titans doing anything. Broncos probably will barely make the finals again and get smacked around in the first round, like always. North Queensland is still pining for the lost age of Jonathan Thurston. I mean, there's a lot of teams, and for the teams that didn't do so well, I think with the Rabbitohs getting a big fish like Latrell Mitchell from the Roosters, this could be their time. This could be their time, but the thing is, Latrell Mitchell is very enigmatic and unpredictable with his personality. So whether he'll gel with a veteran coach like Wayne Bennett, who's won 7 premierships and who's very hard-nosed and no-nonsense, whether he'll gel with them remains to be seen.
All I'm going to say is the couple of teams who I think have made it and not going to this year. I think a team that will make it, potentially, Newcastle. I think Newcastle has a chance to sort of surprise people by getting in there. My other choice...
I mean, they do have Kalen Ponga.
Right. My other choice for a team that didn't get in last year but has a chance to get in this year, I think, looking at it, the Dragons. They did crumble towards the end, and they have to get better at not crumbling. But I would say that out of this, this year's premiership winners will be the Rabbitohs.
Yeah,
Rabbitohs will win because they have a few other. They have kept the core
pieces.
Guys, and I think they'll have a chance. I think the Roosters.
But everything relies on Latrell Mitchell. If they don't get Latrell Mitchell on side, I don't think they're winning a premiership. Simple as that. And as well with the Roosters, they lost a big piece in Latrell Mitchell, and they still have a lot of young talent. They still have most of their core. James Tedesco's still there, but I don't think they're going to be making the grand final this year, and if they do, they'll probably lose. But anyway, that'll do it for our second episode in the series. We covered a lot of topics. Here we will hopefully get back to you guys next week with more topics to talk about.
Our third episode. So if you like what you hear, stay informed and stay listening. For now, 2 views are out.
See ya.